You are Locked On Giants Postcast, part of Locked On Sports San Francisco on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On Giants Postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR. And today, the Giants sweat out a close one in Kansas City as they topped the Royals 2-1. And Mason Black spun the best start of his young career as he blanked the 2014 World Series losers over 5 2/3 innings. Camilo Deval did the 2024 Camilo Deval thing and nearly blew it before getting the game-ending strikeout. And Heliot Ramos delivered 3 hits and finished a home run shy of the cycle on an otherwise quiet night offensively for the San Francisco Giants. We'll break it all down, but first I want to thank all of you for watching us on the Locked On Sports San Francisco YouTube channel. Please, if you aren't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button right now. Thanks also for tuning in on the Locked On Giants podcast feed, making us your first listen following these Giants games. And make sure to check out the Locked On Giants Daily Show for your second listen and for more in-depth coverage. Ben Kaspick does a great job. And now, through September 22nd, almost here, just 2 more days, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. And in this one, again, Mike Yastrzemski starting it off with a leadoff single. Like Mikey Yaz in the leadoff role recently, this last week, has, been unconscious. Especially in this first inning, it's just been locked in. This 3 for 4 in his last 4 first inning at-bats on this road trip. And he's got 2 bombs and a single and a run scored, or 3 runs scored in all 3 of those times he reached base. So Mikey Yaz, it's paying off for the Giants for him getting on base early. 2 of those, he scored himself. But today the Giants did a good job of scoring that leadoff runner, which they haven't done a very good job of all season long. Let's be honest. It went leadoff single for Yaz, then Canna with a walk following Conforto, then a fly out, but deep enough to let Yaz tag up and get to third on the play. And then Heliot Ramos, he as I said, finished a home run shy of the cycle in his first at bat, picked up the single and picked it up in the most Giants way possible, hit a big old chopper down the third baseline that the pitcher ran over and got to Michael Wacha, and he was not able to make a play anywhere by the time he got over to that big bounding slow roller. And Ramos, runs well, hustling down the line, beats it out. Run scores from third. Mike Yastrzemski also runs pretty well, so he was moving on contact, got down the line and scored. And the Giants took a 1-0 lead. And they did have an opportunity for a little bit more of a rally here. You still had a runner in scoring position. You still only had 1 out in the inning. But then, of course, they strike out. And then you got 2 outs, and then the ground out ends the inning. So of course, the Giants, 1 run at a time, man, 1 run at a time. That's the only way this team can score runs. When they put up crooked numbers, they seem to win some games. And as you can tell by looking at the Giants record this year, let's take a peek. 75-79 with the win today. 75 wins is not a whole heck of a lot in 162 Major League Baseball season, 162 game Major League Baseball season. So based on that deduction, you can assume the Giants have not had too many crooked innings, and that would be correct, as they just really can't piece together rallies. They struggle with small ball. We talk about this a lot. When you have to have a single, it's great to have the huge home run numbers, and it seemed like we were just doing that for a while with the Gabe Kapler and Farhan Zaidi, like galaxy brain baseball thing, where it was just every day. It was, let's hope the Giants just hit a bunch of home runs, or they're not going to do anything. They're just going to strike out. It's been a lot of home runs or strikeouts here in San Francisco these last few years. Today, this season, I thought we were going to get away from that a little bit more. It still feels a little bit, kind of like that, although it's starting to get more into actual real baseball again, although the Giants just aren't good at doing these things. Bob Melvin tries to get the Giants to do these things. Donovan Walton's 2 failed bunt attempts last night. The Giants really bad at situational hitting. It's the biggest issue with this team, has been all season long, and that was evident again in the second inning, because guess what? The Giants get the leadoff runner on there too. They also get another single right after it. So you got first and second, nobody out, and then a sack bunt, that was the the Royals. Bottom of the second, my bad, dude. I'm getting my notes mixed up. So bottom of the second, Mason Black does a good job of navigating around the Royals, getting their leadoff runners on. He gives up a single and a single. Sack bunt puts the runners at second base and third base for the Royals with just one out in the inning. And Mason Black pitches around it, gets 2 lineouts to end that inning. And he was pretty efficient today. I mean, he had some innings where he ran into some issues. This was probably his most stressful inning, man. I mean, he gave up half of his hits in this one inning, gave up a total of 4 on the night, which is pretty solid. Only 1 walk, 4 strikeouts for Mason Black. And the big thing, no home runs. This is his first start. This is that he hasn't given up a home run in. This is his 8th start of the season. He's given up 7 home runs, exactly 1 per game up until tonight, where he held down the Royals. And the Royals, it was maybe a good timing thing for Mason Black because they've been struggling lately. This is their 5th loss in a row, but a win's a win, right? Mason Black with the win gets his first career major league win in a Giants uniform. His record on the season is now 1-4, and this was also his longest outing of his career. The 5 2/3 was longer than any other outing he's had so far. His previous high was 5 innings, even on the August 31st game against Miami. And he pitched pretty well in that one too, only gave up 2 earned runs. And this was also the first time that Mason Black left a game with a donut on the board. So first time that he left the game with the shutout intact. He pitched really, really well tonight. Really, really, really well. I was very impressed by the young rookie and a guy that, like much of the rest of these Giants pitchers that we're watching, like Landon Roop and Hayden Birdsong and all these other Giants pitchers not named, Blake Snell and Logan Webb, that are kind of auditioning to be part of next year's starting rotation. And I definitely expect Roop and Black to both be guys that will be given extensive looks at the start of next year. And who knows what's going to happen with Keaton Winn. Maybe he gets another look now, with an off season to get healthy and all that. I'm not supremely confident that Keaton Winn is going to, make a bunch of waves or stick as a starter. You also have Jordan Hicks in the role. He actually also just hit the IL today. It was dated retroactive, so he'll be eligible to come off before the end of the season, I think. But I don't expect to see him back really. Hicks has been really no, he won't be able to come back. He won't be eligible. Just will miss it by about 2 days. So no more Jordan Hicks the rest of the season, and he needed to be shut down, man. This entire second half of the year, Jordan Hicks has just been a shell of his first half of the season self. But he's a guy that the Giants will factor into next year's starting rotation as well. It'll be interesting to see if the Giants go to like a 6-man, 7-man, even maybe rotation just to get Hicks, some more time in between these starts and keep him fresh longer in the season. He was basically useless after the All-Star break. I mean, and even a couple games before, he really started to gas out after he reached that career high in innings pitched, and it was all downhill from there for Jordan Hicks. But for Mason Black, it's been kind of the opposite. As he's been getting more time in the bigs this season, the more comfortable he has become after that kind of rough stretch when he came up early in the season in May, and then he got sent back down to the minors, got hurt, and then really kicked it back into gear, pitched really well in AAA for a while, and then came back up to play against the Marlins. That August 31st start, he returned to the big leagues, and he bounced back in a big way. That was his best career best start with the Giants up until tonight. In his last 4 starts now, he's only had 1 game where he's given up more than 2 earned runs. So that's on another great sign. And that's despite giving up all those home runs that we were just talking about a little bit earlier. So Mason Black is a guy who's really got something to build on right now. That ERA in the month of May was at 8.79 when he got sent down. Yikes. That's a big, big, big number. But now that ERA is all the way down to 5.88. That's not the best ERA in the world. I'm not saying that's a huge, win for Mason Black having a 5.88 ERA, but to be able to cut your ERA by 3 whole runs in basically 4 or 5 starts, that's pretty solid. That means that this guy has bounced back in a big way and that he's got a lot to build on. As I said, going into next season, I think this is a guy that will absolutely be given a longer look as a part of this Giants starting staff next year. And I think a lot of that has to do with how he ended this season. Mason Black could come back out and just kind of done what he did earlier this season in May, if he just kind of repeated that for the month of September, I don't think we would really see that being the Giants, a priority for the Giants, letting Mason Black get an extended look next year. I think they'd maybe go look to sign another arm just to have another guy in that starting staff. But I think the way that he's ending this season means he's earned a shot, that you can give him the ball in a start next year in April, and you can say, here, go get it, and leave him in there until he gets injured, which if you're basing it on what happened to the Giants this year, is pretty likely they're going to run into some injuries next year, or until he just gets tired and then they do the inevitable Farhan Zaidi micromanaging thing where they send him back down to AAA another 15 times next year. But I really hope that doesn't happen, man. And I think that affects young guys. We've talked about it a lot. I think there's some degree of it that happens in baseball. It's inevitable that the guys will be called up and sent down due to injuries and roster manipulation, things like that. But Farhan does it to such an extreme degree that I don't know how a guy like Luis Matos, who has been up and down, like a dozen times this season, I don't know how you're able to stay focused on what you're doing when you don't even know where you're playing tomorrow. That's got to be really tough, and you don't even know which. I'm sure he's probably Sacramento and San Francisco aren't too far away, but you don't really know where you're going to be sleeping that night, and that's tough, man. Like, you could just be sent back down to Sacramento any given day of the week for any given reason, it seems like, and I don't think that inspires a ton of confidence in these young guys, and I really hope that Mason Black gets an extended look next year, because I really do think that this guy's got a lot of good stuff going for him, that he's not walking guys. And that's one thing that a lot of other Giants pitchers do a lot, is walk a lot of guys. And Mason Black not doing that very much at all. I mean, today, or really at all this season. Only one walk today. And in his last couple starts, one walk against the Padres on the 14th, one walk against the Padres on the 6th, one walk, or 0 walks in that August 31st start against the Marlins. So since he's come back from injury and returned to the big leagues, he has not walked more than one batter per game. That's awesome. That's the number one issue that a lot of these younger Giants pitchers have problems with. Kyle Harrison, Hayden Birdsong, all these guys, they walk a lot. They walk a lot of guys. They tend to lose control, get a little bit wild, and their misses aren't exactly close. Mason Black doesn't really seem to have a problem living in that strike zone, pitching to contact, and he did a pretty good job of that today. He got 4 flyouts, 4 groundouts. He did not seem like he's up there with the Hayden Birdsong mentality of got to strike everybody out in order to win this game. And I don't blame Birdsong for kind of seeming to feel that way. I mean, this team doesn't give pitchers run support. In 1-run games, this team is not very good, although they did win today. Overall on the season, I believe they're still under 500. They've been, floating right around 500 for a while in these 1-run games. With the win, they're still below 500, 23-24 on the season. So the Giants, they do a good job today winning this one, but this has been something we've talked about all year long. It just a couple different moments. The margins have been so close. If the Giants were just slightly better, marginally better in these 1-run games, maybe they'd still be in playoff contention. We also didn't officially note the Giants, with the loss yesterday, were officially eliminated from playoff contention. The win today doesn't put them back in, unfortunately. So doesn't quite work like that. But the Giants will, look to rebound next year. And that's the same thing that we said last year. And it puts us back in a spot where we're kind of reflecting back over, the Farhan Zaidi tenure. And it just feels that it's, kind of the right timing that we're, this happens, and the Giants go to Kansas City to play the Royals, where obviously they beat the Royals the last time that this team was any good, in 2014. I shouldn't say any good. They made the playoffs in 2016. They won 107 games a couple of years ago. Those were pretty good Giants teams as well. But the last time that the Giants won in the postseason, it was against this Royals team. And that was obviously an amazing moment for all Giants fans. And it's hard to believe that was a decade ago. We've had a decade of enduring, some not so great moments with Farhan Zaidi and what's been Giants baseball. Obviously, Farhan wasn't in charge that whole time. You still had Bruce Bochy for the last, couple of years after the 2014 World Series win. But those years just didn't quite hit the same. 2016 was a nice little, nice little run until it got spoiled by the Cubs, who eventually won the World Series, I might add. So maybe if the Giants didn't lose to the team that eventually won the World Series, maybe they would have gotten one themselves in 2016 as well. But since then, it's been really rough to be a Giants fan, man. It's hard to believe that was 10 years ago. Like, I don't think of myself as an old guy, but like, in 10 years, man. I mean, like, I was like, not in 2014, but in the first Giants World Series, I remember having to cut school to go to the World Series parade back in 2010. And I mean, man, that makes me feel like I got to bust out the Brian Murphy. I'm not old on the Locked On Giants postcast, man. Man. So it just begs the question, what the hell are the Giants doing next year? Are they bringing back Farhan? We had that Andrew Baggerly report where he talked about how it was mainly Buster Posey that got that contract done with Matt Chapman. And if ownership is coming in and doing the job of the president of baseball operations / GM, Farhan Zaidi, then why do you need that guy still around? I don't know. I mean, obviously, Buster's not just going to go make every single deal himself. So, by the way, I just read an article about Buster Posey buying like a big old ranch up there in Mendocino County and with like really great, world-renowned hunting property on it. So good for Buster. He moved back to San Francisco after he had moved out to Georgia when he retired, and then he came back into the fold with the Giants ownership group, moved back out here to San Francisco, and now it seems like he's really settling in even more, if that was possible, laying down even more roots in California, purchasing that property up in Mendocino County, which, by the way, shout out Mendocino County. Number one, 420th everywhere. Rejoice. And number two, some of the most beautiful scenery in the world. If you know, man. So yeah, Buster, I mean, me and Buster Posey and so many other, Bay Area sports people love that area in general. And I'm happy to have Buster, solidifying his status here with this ownership group. Doesn't seem like he's going to look to move back into the shadows anytime soon. He's going to stay at the forefront of this ownership group, making things work for this Giants team. So just a series of reflection is what I felt watching the Giants play games back in Kansas City, because I don't know how you don't think about that when you watch this. I don't know how you don't think about Pablo Sandoval catching, making those plays down the third baseline and Bumgarner's amazing performance. I mean, basically putting the team on his back by himself and just single-handedly winning that game 7 against the Royals. I mean, this was one of the, I think, probably the most tense World Series between that the Giants were in those 3 World Series wins. So, I mean, it really makes you kind of look back and think about all of these tumultuous times since then. And there really haven't been that many good ones. I mean, you point to the 107 win season and that was cool, but ultimately you lost to the Dodgers in the playoffs. And that doesn't feel very good when thinking back to that season. So Giants today, they win this one against the Royals, 2-1 win that Camilo Deval almost gave away in the 9th inning. Let's get into that a little bit on the other side. I also later on want to give Eric Miller some love, because I feel like this guy gets overlooked a lot in the Giants pen. And this young kid, I mean, has been so impressive. And if he was on a different team, like say this guy's on the Diamondbacks or the Padres, he's probably getting a lot of love. But because he's on the Giants, he gets overlooked because he's a high leverage arm that doesn't get used in these high leverage roles as often as he should be able to, as often as he's talented enough to get all these opportunities. But the Giants, they're just not good enough of a team to put Eric Miller in positions where he can actually have opportunities to show off in these high leverage moments. So we'll give Eric Miller some love. He had a nice inning today. And I want to give Eric Miller some love, man. Eric with the K's, we got to stick together. You know what I mean? So let's take a break on this Locked On Giants postcast. On the other side, we're going to talk Camilo Deval nearly giving this game away in the 9th inning. And then later on, we'll talk Eric Miller and give him some credit and some props on the other side later on in this show. This is the Locked On Giants postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. We'll be right back. Today's show is sponsored by eBay. Passion, drive, and patience The formula for winning championship is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to the Locked On Giants postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and today the Giants topped the Royals 2-1 out in Kansas City, and they almost didn't because Camilo Deval did everything he could to give this game away in the ninth inning here, man. At the bottom of the ninth, Camilo Deval comes in with a 2-0 lead. Ryan Walker unavailable. He's pitched the last couple days. And you aren't going to, Giants got eliminated from postseason contention yesterday. You aren't going to gas out your closer and make him throw every single day when the Giants are out of playoff contention. That's not what you want to do with that guy. You want him to be ready for next year, ride that confidence high as long as he can, and be healthy ultimately going into next season. That was the number one. One of the biggest issues for the Giants, I won't say number one issue, that's hitting with runners in scoring position, but one of the biggest issues for the Giants this year was just health in general. So many guys got hurt. Ultimately, that's baseball. Guys get hurt. No team makes it through the season unscathed, but it was really bad for the Giants in the first half of the season. You don't want to have injuries going into next year. So all that leads to Camilo Deval coming in for the save with Ryan Walker unavailable. First 8 pitches, all outside of the strike zone. 2 walks before he can even throw a strike, and then immediately bounces back with a strikeout. And I mean, this is just Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Camilo Deval at its peak. I mean, and then comes up with gets a soft grounder to short. And this should be a game-ending double play. And Tyler Fitzgerald, man, I don't know what the hell he just did there. He didn't really charge the ball. He just kind of sat there and waited for it. And then he didn't really get it out of his glove super fast and kind of slowly tossed it to second base instead of firing it over there. Everybody ends up being safe. Bases are now loaded with 1 out. And I love Fitz. I think he's a great bat. I do not think that this guy is a shortstop at the major league level. I would really want the Giants to go out and get a shortstop in the offseason, like a real shortstop, you know what I mean? So we'll see if they're able to do that in the offseason and get this guy into it. I think Fitz needs to play second base. I really think he does. I mean, you got Chapman at third. I think you need to go get a defensive-minded shortstop to play that position. I mean, we had Brandon Crawford there for so long. Omar Vizquel. Even Rich Aurelio was pretty nifty with the glove. The Giants cannot afford to have a middle of the pack or bottom of the pack defensively shortstop. You can't have a guy be defensively at short and expect to keep staying competitive. You have to be solid up the middle. You have to be good defensively at catcher, at shortstop, and in center field. You have to be good at those 3 positions defensively if you want to win playoff baseball. I'm not going to go out on I don't think I'm going out on a limb here by saying I don't think Tyler Fitzgerald falls into the category of good at shortstop yet, on defense at least. He could get there. He's learning to play the position on the fly. That alone is really impressive. Like, very few guys can do that. Like Mookie Betts does that, but Mookie Betts also plays the position at a much higher level than Tyler Fitzgerald does when he's learning the position on the fly. That's why Mookie Betts is an alien and MVP type guy, and Tyler Fitzgerald is he's a rookie who still has a lot to prove. But so after this play, the Royals have bases loaded with just 1 out, and Hampson, the 9-hitter, just battles with Deval. This was a very long battle where he ripped one down the third baseline. It was about as close as you can get to being a fair ball with it still being foul. And they I don't know what they were reviewing for a long time, but they went out there and talking about it for a while, and Deval was just kind of standing there. And you know how, finicky he can be. I feel like he's like a Nintendo, like an old school Nintendo 64 game cartridge where like you put it in the thing, you turn it on, sometimes it doesn't work. You got to take it out, blow on it. Sometimes that doesn't work. You let it just stand around for too long, it might freeze. So like you can't, you got, once it's going, you just let it go. And that's the same thing with Deval. Once he's rolling, you don't do anything. You just let him keep going. You don't stop him. No mound visits, no delays in play. Otherwise, he's going to start getting a little weird. Maybe this isn't going to work anymore. Got to, take out the cartridge, blow out in a little bit, have Brian Price go out to the mound and shake Camilo Deval a little bit on the mound, maybe get him into back into form. And then after that long pause, Deval, to his credit, ends up winning that battle with Hampson, although he did lift one far enough into the outfield on that it was good enough to score the runner from third. Runner also advances to third from second base on the play. So it's now a 2-1 Giants lead with 2 outs and just a 1-run lead. And Camilo Deval gets a strikeout to end it. And holy hell, man. Like this guy in his 9th inning escapades this season have been so hard to handle. And I think we can officially say at the end of this season, Camilo Deval, he's just not going to return to form with the Giants. He's just not going to return to being that same guy with the Giants. I think he could still be a dominant closer in this league. I think he's got to go somewhere else to do it. And that pains me, man. Like we used to do the Camilo Deval saves counter on the show. And I mean, he did pick up a save tonight. I'm not busting out the bobblehead so that we can go do the saves counter thing with him because, he's fallen off so dramatically. His 23rd save for Camilo Deval. But I mean, tough fall from grace for last year's All-Star for the Giants. It just doesn't feel the same, man. Just doesn't feel the same. Think of how hyped we all were when they had that new intro for him with all the lights and the fire on the Jumbotron and all that. It was so cool, man. It's not as cool when he does this stuff. It's just not as cool when he does this stuff. So bummer that Camilo Deval has spiraled the way he has, and I don't expect him to really regain form with the Giants. But one guy that we can all get excited about going forward from the bullpen is Eric Miller. Again, Eric Miller tonight with another couple of great strikeouts in a really good inning for him. And I really do think that this guy is another huge piece for this Giants team going into the future, another talented young arm. So let's talk about Eric Miller on the other side, wrap up the show, put a bow on it, give Eric Miller some props because he deserves it, man. Eric with a K. Anyway, any Eric with a K, I'm riding with you, man. Stick with us on the Locked On Giants postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. We'll be right back. Today's show is also sponsored by FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's number one sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you today. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a free 3-week trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. And if that's not enough, be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's double your winnings for all of Sunday. Pre-game moneyline bets. Profit Boost will be live should be live right now, starting yesterday. So go to your account page to learn more about your boost. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's number one sportsbook. Welcome back to the Locked On Giants postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and today the Giants win 2-1 over the Royals. They've now won 3 of their last 4 on this road trip against 2 playoff teams. Man, what is happening? What's gotten into the Giants? With the win, they're at 75 and 79. The Royals, this is their 5th loss in a row, man. They've now fallen to 82 and 72. And for a team that's vying for playoff position, that's not what you want to be doing at this point in time in the season. The Giants playing a little bit of spoiler for the Royals. Obviously not the first time that the Giants have spoiled the Royals' fun towards the end of the season. We all remember 2014. But today, before we end the show, I want to give Eric Miller some love, man. He had another inning where he had 2 strikeouts, and this guy has been so good all season long, man. Like, this kid had never pitched a game above Double-A until this season. Comes in, this was his 70th appearance. Coming into tonight, he had 69 appearances. That's nice. And I mean, this guy, for a rookie, 70 appearances in your rookie season. Remember where we were just talking about Mason Black? He's given up 7 home runs in 7 starts. Well, in 70 outings, Eric Miller's given up the same number of home runs. I mean, this guy has been so good. I mean, coming into tonight, 64 and a third innings pitched and 82 strikeouts. So now he's at 65 and a third innings pitched with 84 strikeouts. That is so good. So good for a young pitcher who really tracks to be, the setup man of the future or the closer of the future for the Giants, depending on how all, Ryan Walker shakes out. Maybe he holds down this role for a long time, but don't sleep on Eric Miller, man. This guy is part of this nucleus of young core players for the Giants that they're going to need to ride in the future. And he's got to be towards the top of the list of guys out of the bullpen in high leverage situations. He's been so good this year, man. I mean, his expected batting average against is below 200. It's 184. His expected ERA 291. Both of those top 10 of all of pitchers in baseball, the batting average against in the top 2% of everyone in baseball. The strikeout rate 30.8%, top 8% of pitchers in baseball. That whiff rate 30.9% of the time he's generating strikeouts. And the walk rate, just 12.8% of the time. Bottom 4% of the league. He has been so good on the mound. And I just like the look of an Eric Miller. He's got that lettuce going. He's got the long locks just flowing out of the back of the hat. And he's just up there just hucking it, man. Like, that guy's got some velo, and it's fun to watch him do his thing up there on the hill. So Eric Miller did it again tonight. Another couple strikeouts, a Stanford man. So, he's a Bay Area guy through and through. Shout out Stanford Athletics. I mean, if you guys don't I do some work with the Stanford radio booth during football games. So I'm very familiar with the Stanford campus and Stanford Athletics. So it's been really fun watching Eric Miller have the season that he's had for the Giants. I just wish that the Giants would have had a little bit better of a season for Eric Miller. You know what I mean? But they did win tonight. 2-1 win over the Kansas City Royals. And that's something we can all be a little bit happy about today, right? We can at least hang our hats on that for one more day. With the win, the Giants are at 75 and 79. The Royals down to 82 and 72. And with that, that's about all the time that we got for you guys today on the Locked On Giants postcast. We'll be coming to you live tomorrow. Remember, the tomorrow's start got moved up a little bit, so be sure to make sure you're tuning in early tomorrow for this Giants-Royals game 2 out in Kansas City. We'll come to you live with the postcast afterwards, as we always do. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Eric Triple E. We'll see you next time. Peace.